بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. أفلح من صلى على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. عن فاطمة الزهراء عليها السلام بنت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله قال: سمعت فاطمة أنها قالت: دخل علي أبي رسول الله في بعض الأيام فقال: السلام عليك يا فاطمة. فقلت: عليك السلام. قال: إني أجد في بدني ضعفا. فقلت له: أعيذك بالله يا أبتاه من الضعف. فقال: يا فاطمة ائتيني بالكساء اليماني فغطني به. فأتيته بالكساء اليماني فغطيته به وصرت أنظر إليه وإذا وجهه يتلألأ كأنه البدر في ليلة تمامه وكماله. فما كانت إلا ساعة وإذا بولدي الحسن قد أقبل وقال: السلام عليك يا أماه. فقلت: وعليك السلام يا قرة عيني وثمرة فؤادي. فقال: يا أماه إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة جدي رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله. فقلت: نعم، إن جدك تحت الكساء. فأقبل الحسن نحو الكساء وقال: السلام عليك يا جداه يا رسول الله، أتأذن لي أن أدخل معك تحت الكساء؟ فقال: وعليك السلام يا ولدي ويا صاحب حوضي، قد أذنت لك. فدخل معه تحت الكساء. فما كانت إلا ساعة وإذا بولدي الحسين قد أقبل وقال: السلام عليك يا أماه. فقلت: وعليك السلام يا قرة عيني وثمرة فؤادي. فقال لي: يا أماه إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة جدي رسول الله. فقلت: نعم، إن جدك وأخاك تحت الكساء. فدنا الحسين نحو الكساء وقال: السلام عليك يا جداه، السلام عليك يا من اختاره الله، أتأذن لي أن أكون معكما تحت الكساء؟ فقال: وعليك السلام يا ولدي ويا شافع أمتي، قد أذنت لك. فدخل معهما تحت الكساء. فأقبل عند ذلك أبو الحسن علي بن أبي طالب وقال: السلام عليك يا بنت رسول الله. فقلت: وعليك السلام يا أبا الحسن ويا أمير المؤمنين. فقال: يا فاطمة إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة أخي وابن عمي رسول الله. فقلت: نعم، ها هو مع ولديك تحت الكساء. فأقبل علي نحو الكساء وقال: السلام عليك يا رسول الله، أتأذن لي أن أكون معكم تحت الكساء؟ قال: وعليك السلام يا أخي ووصي وخليفتي وصاحب لوائي، قد أذنت لك. فدخل علي تحت الكساء، ثم أتيت نحو الكساء وقلت: السلام عليك يا أبتاه يا رسول الله، أتأذن لي أن أكون معكم تحت الكساء؟ قال: وعليك السلام يا بنتي وبضعتي، قد أذنت لك. فدخلت تحت الكساء، فلما اكتملنا جميعا تحت الكساء، أخذ أبي رسول الله بطرفي الكساء وأومأ بيده اليمنى إلى السماء وقال: اللهم إن هؤلاء أهل بيتي وخاصتي وعامتي، لحمهم لحمي ودمهم دمي، يؤلمني ما يؤلمهم ويحزنني ما يحزنهم. أنا حرب لمن حاربهم، وسلم لمن سالمهم، وعدو لمن عاداهم، ومحب لمن أحبهم. إنهم مني وأنا منهم، فاجعل صلواتك وبركاتك ورحمتك وغفرانك ورضوانك علي وعليهم، وأذهب عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. فقال الله عز وجل: يا ملائكتي وسكان سماواتي، إني ما خلقت سماء مبنية ولا أرضا مدحية ولا قمرا منيرا ولا شمسا مضيئة ولا فلكا يدور ولا بحرا يجري ولا فلكا يسري إلا في محبة هؤلاء الخمسة الذين هم تحت الكساء. فقال الأمين جبرائيل: يا رب ومن تحت الكساء؟ فقال عز وجل: هم أهل بيت النبوة ومعدن الرسالة، هم فاطمة وأبوها وبعلها وبنوها. فقال جبرائيل: يا رب أتأذن لي أن أهبط إلى الأرض لأكون معهم سادسا؟ فقال الله: نعم، قد أذنت لك. فهبط الأمين جبرائيل وقال: السلام عليك يا رسول الله، العلي الأعلى يقرئك السلام ويخصك بالتحية والإكرام ويقول لك: وعزتي وجلالي إني ما خلقت سماء مبنية ولا أرضا مدحية ولا قمرا منيرا ولا شمسا مضيئة ولا فلكا يدور ولا بحرا يجري ولا فلكا يسري إلا لأجلكم ومحبتكم، وقد أذن لي أن أدخل معكم، فهل تأذن لي يا رسول الله؟ فقال رسول الله عليك السلام يا أمين وحي الله: إنه نعم، قد أذنت لك. فدخل جبرائيل معنا تحت الكساء، فقال لأبي: إن الله قد أوحى إليكم يقول: إنما يريد الله ليذهب عنكم الرجس أهل البيت ويطهركم تطهيرا. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. فقال علي لأبي: يا رسول الله، أخبرني ما لجلوسنا هذا تحت الكساء من الفضل عند الله. فقال النبي صلى الله عليه وآله: والذي بعثني بالحق نبيا واصطفاني بالرسالة نجيا. ما ذكر خبرنا هذا في محفل من محافل أهل الأرض، وفيه جمع من شيعتنا ومحبينا، إلا ونزلت عليهم الرحمة وحفت بهم الملائكة واستغفرت لهم إلى أن يتفرقوا. فقال علي عليه السلام: إذن والله فزنا وفاز شيعتنا ورب الكعبة. فقال أبي رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله: يا علي والذي بعثني بالحق نبيا واصطفاني بالرسالة نجيا، ما ذكر خبرنا هذا في محفل من محافل أهل الأرض، وفيه جمع من شيعتنا ومحبينا، وفيهم مهموم إلا وفرج الله همه، ولا مغموم إلا وكشف الله غمه، ولا طالب حاجة إلا وقضى الله حاجته. فقال علي عليه السلام: إذن والله فزنا وسعدنا، وكذلك شيعتنا فازوا وسعدوا في الدنيا والآخرة ورب الكعبة.
بل محمد وآل محمد صلوات. جرتوں کا آسماں ہے فاطمہ، جرتوں کا آسماں ہے فاطمہ، زینب کبریٰ کی ماں ہے فاطمہ، وجہ تخلیق جہاں ہے فاطمہ، 11 معصوموں کی ماں ہے فاطمہ، جس میں ہے معصوم تاروں کی ضیا، نور کی وہ کہکشاں ہے فاطمہ، جرتوں کا آسماں ہے فاطمہ، دیکھنے والی نگاہیں چاہیے، دیکھنے والی نگاہیں چاہیے، ہر زمیں کا آسماں ہے فاطمہ، اور جرتوں کا آسماں ہے فاطمہ، کیوں نہ تفسیر سلامی دیں انہیں، کیوں نہ تفسیر سلامی دیں انہیں، آیتوں کی ہم زباں ہے فاطمہ، اور جرتوں کا آسماں ہے فاطمہ، خوش نہ ہونا چھین کر باغ فدق، خوش نہ ہونا چھین کر باغ فدق، ملکہ باغ جنا ہے فاطمہ، زینب کبریٰ کی ماں ہے فاطمہ، رک نہیں سکتی عزاداری کبھی، رک نہیں سکتی सकती आज़ादारी कभी, मजलिसों की पासबां है फातिमा, ज़ैनब कुबरा की माँ है फातिमा। और ढूंढते हो क्या जमल वाली के पास, हक वहाँ पर है जहाँ है फातिमा। हश्र में पूछा गया अगर कोई है, हश्र में पूछा गया अगर कोई है, कह दिया कि मैंने कहा है फातिमा। जुर्रतों का आसमां है फातिमा। और तुम बता दो उसको मजलिस का पता, तुम बता दो उसको मजलिस का पता, घर कोई पूछे कहाँ है फातिमा। जुर्रतों का आसमां है फातिमा। हम अली वालों को इस पे नाज है, हम अली वालों को इस पे नाज है, नाज़िशे कौनो मकां है फातिमा। जुर्रतों का आसमां है फातिमा, ज़ैनब कुबरा की माँ है फातिमा। बर मोहम्मद वाले मोहम्मद सल्लल्लाहु।
محمد وآل محمد صلی اللہ علیہ وسلم. وہ فاطمہ زہرا کا گر بار کو بلانا، وہ فاطمہ زہرا کا گر بار کو بلانا، اور سب کو شہادت کی خبر ہائے سنانا۔ جاتی ہوں میں والی مجھے بابا ہے بلاتے، جاتی ہوں میں والی مجھے بابا ہے بلاتے، بچوں کو میرے بعد تم ہی ناز اٹھانا، وہ فاطمہ زہرا کا گر بار کو بلانا۔ بیٹوں کو فدا کر کے گر بار لٹا کے، بیٹوں کو فدا کر کے گر بار لٹا کے، اور آخری سجدے کے لیے سر کو جھکانا، وہ فاطمہ زہرا کا گر بار کو بلانا۔ امت ہے میرے بابا کی آسی ہے خطا کار، امت ہے میرے بابا کی آسی ہے خطا کار، बख्शीश के लिए उनकी सरनंगे फिराना, वो फातिमा ज़हरा का करबर को बुलाना, कर देंगे निसार कल्बों जिगर आपके दर पर, कर देंगे निसार कल्बों जिगर आपके दर पर, बीबी जो हमें कब्र पे एक बार बुलाना, वो फातिमा ज़हरा का बरागर को बुलाना। जन्नत में रहूंगी न मैं, घर घर में फिरूंगी, जन्नत में रहूंगी न मैं, घर घर में फिरूंगी, बेटे कि मेरे फर्शे अज़ा तुम जो बिछाना, वो फातिमा ज़हरा का घर बार बुलाना, और सबको शहादत की खबर हाय सुनाना। मोहम्मद वाले मोहम्मद सल्लल्लाहु।
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Just, will, just a few quick announcements before we start the program. If I can get your attention to the television screens for a moment. Um, as you can see, we have protocols that we need to follow. Since the cases have gone up a lot in the past few weeks, past few actually days, so this is throughout all of our centers now. So what we need to do is make sure individuals who are going to attend programs in person are fully vaccinated, 12 years age and over. We need to maintain our social distance of 2 meters at all times. Make sure your masks are on at all times as well, unless you're reciting. So the masks have to cover your nose and your mouth, both. So please follow those protocols. And no handshaking and no hugging. And we need to maintain our distance when we're exiting the building. Single file, at least 2 meters apart. There will be somebody handing out the tabarruk, so you just grab your tabarruk and just exit the building. I know these are harsh protocols to follow, but it's just for your own safety and the safety of everyone around you. So please adhere to these protocols that we have in place. Hopefully, a few weeks maybe things will come down and maybe they'll ease up on some of these protocols. So our upcoming programs, we have our second Ayyame-Fatimya program for tomorrow evening at the same time at 7 p.m. And then the next Thursday, our program, Shavi Juma program, will start at 7 with your normal Isha Salat, Yasin Dua Komel, lecture by our resident Alim, Maulana Sayyid Sagir Hussain. And then next Friday, our Juma Salat will be at 12:29 p.m. at the Awal time. The Al-Hujjat Study Center is looking for seniors and volunteers to embark on practicing Quran with madrasa students online. This program is a new initiative to give seniors an opportunity to connect to madrasa and reap the benefit of sadaqah jariyah for the hereafter, inshallah. If you are a senior and experienced in reciting Quran and would like to help out your community, please contact the Al Hujjat Center. I want to, may Allah reward you all for on a cold night like this, leaving your warm homes and coming to the center to listen to a program in live. May Allah reward you highly for doing that. Can I request a Surah Fatiha for the marhumins of the following families? The Mauladina, the Manek, Rahim, Fazal, Dirani, Muhammad Ali, and all the marhumins that tonight we are very honored and privileged to have Sheikh Nabil Awan from UK, who accepted our invitation to come and join us for the 2 nights, the lectures. Sheikh, we thank you from the bottom of our heart. We feel really privileged and honored that you've graced us today. So with your loud salawat, can I ask the Sheikh to please come up? Please everybody stand up. Ma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
ما شاء الله لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل، نعم المولى ونعم النصير. ربي اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله الذي جعل الحمد مفتاحا لذكره وسببا للمزيد من فضله ودليلا على آلائه وعظمته. ثم الصلاة والسلام والتحية والإكرام على النبي الأمي المكي المدني الهاشمي الذي اسمه في السماء بأحمد وفي الأرضين بأبي القاسم محمد وعلى أهل بيته الأطيبين الأطهرين، سيما أولهم أمير المؤمنين وآخرهم بقية الله في الأراضين، روحي وأرواح العالمين لتراب مقدمه الفداء. رحمة الله على محبيهم ومواليهم وشيعتهم أجمعين، ولعنة الله على أعدائهم ملعونين. Amma ba'd, for the happiness of Hazrat Zahra Marziyah, for the enlightenment of the graves of your marhumin, of the graves of the Shuhada, Ulama and Siddiqeen, for the safety of the followers of Ahl al-Bayt around the world, and for the safety and the hastening of the reappearance of Hazrat Baqiyatullah al-A'zam Arwahun al-Fida, please recite your loudest salawat. All praise due to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the one who is Rahman and the one who is Rahim. It's an honor to be given this opportunity to come and speak to you, brothers and sisters. In these ayyam, the ayyam of Hazrat Zahra Salamullah alayha. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. And what can one say about that lady who even her names are at the level of Indiyat? Her names are with Allah. The sixth Imam says, لِفَاطِمَةٍ تِسْأَةُ أَسْمَاء عِنْدَ اللَّهِ فِي مَقْعَدٍ صَدْقٍ عِنْدَ مَلِيكٍ مُقْتَدِرٍ. Says that Fatima alayha salam has 9 names with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now this level, this idea of indiyat, this with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala itself is a philosophical deep concept that takes one years to try and comprehend, that she herself is beyond comprehension. But it is enough to know that her names are at the level of being with Allah. Her names are with Allah. Then imagine the maqam of the lady herself. Imagine her maqam. And it's difficult to understand her. And that's one of the reasons that she has been named Fatima. The sixth Imam has a narration. He says, من عرف فاطمة حق معرفتها فقد أدرك ليلة القدر. The one who understands Fatima as is her right to be understood, فقد أدرك ليلة القدر. It is as if he or she has uncovered the night of Qadr itself. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when talking about the night of Qadr, He says, وَمَا أَدْرَاكَ مَا لَيْلَةُ الْقَدْرِ. You, O human being, cannot understand the night of Qadr. What do you think the night of Qadr is? And then knowing the arrogance of man, he puts it into a small context for him. Says, لَيْلَةُ الْقَدْرِ خَيْرٌ مِّنْ أَلْفِ الشَّهْرِ. The night of Qadr, it is enough for you to know, is greater than 1,000 months. But the night of Qadr is far greater than that. The sixth Imam says, the one who understands Fatima as is her right to be understood, has uncovered the night of Qadr and has understood the secrets of the night of Qadr. But then he continues, وَإِنَّمَا سُمِّيَتْ فَاطِمَةً لِأَنَّ الْخَلْقَ فُطِمُ عَنْ مَعْرِفَتِهَا. But she has been named Fatima for this reason, that mankind فُطِمُ عَنْ مَعْرِفَتِهَا will always be deprived of understanding who she truly is. They will never be able to comprehend who Az-Zahra is. The one that is known as Zahra, the radiant. The radiant one. When the sixth Imam was asked, Ibn Rasulillah, why is it that they called her Az-Zahra, the radiant one? He says, because when she would stand in Salatul Layl and pray, the nur from her face would illuminate the heavens like the stars in the skies illuminate the earth. It would illuminate the heavens for the dwellers of heavens in the same way that the stars illuminate the earth for the dwellers of earth. How can one understand who she is? Hawra al-Insiyya. Sixth Imam says she was a hur in human form. Imam Khomeini, when he's explaining this idea of Hawra, I mentioned last night in Masumin, that when he mentions this aspect of Hawra al-Insiyya, he says Zahra was a creature of nur, created from nur. Because the narration says that when Allah created, when there was nothing existed, Allah manifest the name Allah. And from the manifestation of the name of Allah, He extracted a light from it. A light that was known as the primordial light. A light that was the first light. that all of existence had ever seen, and he named it Muhammad. And from that light he took another light and he named that Ali, and from those lights he took a third light and he named that Fatima. So she is known as Zahra because she is radiant, because she is an entity of light. Imam Khomeini says she is Hawra al-Insiya. Why? Because she was of Noor, but she wore just the clothing of a human for a short period of time upon the earth. But what is it that we can take from this Hur that came to us for only 18 years? Because at her Shahadat she was 18. What can we take? Because Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam didn't come for just stories. They didn't come just for our tears. They came for more, to take us towards a destination. The fourth Imam says that Ahlul Bayt in Salawat Sha'baniyah, he says, Al-Fulk al-Jariyati fil Lujaj al-Ghamira, says they are arcs of salvation that sail upon unfathomless seas. يَأْمَنُ مَنْ رَكِبَهَا وَيَغْرَقُ مَنْ تَرَكَهَا. That those that believed in them were saved. The ones that disbelieved in them were drowned. الْمُتَقَدِّمُ لَهُمْ مَارِكٌ وَالْمُتَأَخِّرُ عَنْهُمْ زَاهِقٌ وَاللَّازِمُ لَهُمْ لَاهِقٌ. The one that ran ahead of them was misguided. The one that stayed too far behind them was lost. وَاللَّازِمُ لَهُمْ لَاهِقٌ. But the one that walked with them at every place, was alongside them, was finally reunited with them. So they came as guides for us. So what is it that we can take from her life, salamullah alayha? One of the most prominent things that Hazrat Zahra has said is the khutbah fadakiyah. That khutbah that she went out ala zahir to defend her haqq, to take back or to defend her right over fadak. But when you read it and you ponder over it, you realize actually it doesn't seem that fadak is even the purpose or the aim of az-Zahra at all. But rather it is the defense of the wilaya of Amirul Mu'mineen. Because fadak really, in the eyes of Ahlul Bayt, was nothing. It was gifted. And yes, Shaheed al-Sadr, when he talks about fadak, he says that if fadak had remained with Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, not a single Sayyid would have been poor in this world today. That's how large the land of fadak was. The land of fadak would reap so much, tens of thousands of dinar, but not a single dinar, not a single dirham reached the door of Az-Zahra. When Amirul Mu'mineen would bring the money, along the way the beggars and the poor would line the streets, and Ali would distribute everything, and he would come home and Zahra would say, Ali, where is the money? From fadak. And he would say, Zahra, as I was walking, the poor, they came, they put their hand out in front of me, and you know, I, Ali, cannot say no to the one that asks something from me. And Zahra falls into sajda. Shukran lillah. Never did, for years, there were 3 or 4 years that fadak was under the control of Hazrat Zahra, and not a single dinar or dirham reached the house. All of it was distributed amongst the people. So when she went to deliver this khutbah, it was not that she gained back that piece of land, but rather it was in the defense of the wilaya of her imam. It was the defense not of her husband, but of the imam of her time. And there are many different aspects of it that we can take, but I want to look at a specific part that is relevant to our modern day lives, and that is, where Hazrat Zahra highlights what causes degradation in a community, what causes a society, a community to destroy itself. See, when the workers of Fadak came to the house of Hazrat Zahra and they said that the first Khalifa has come, he brought his soldiers in, he's thrown us all out, and he's taken over the land of Fadak. And they came to the house of Hazrat Zahra to tell her this. The narration says, لافت خمارها على رأسها. She wrapped her khimar upon her head. واشتملت بجلبابها. And she placed her jilbab over her. Jilbab is a long piece of cloth that goes up beyond the feet and up to past the wrists of the hands. واشتملت بجلبابها. She covered herself in her jilbab. She wrapped her head in the khimar. She surrounded herself with the women from her tribe and those that were close to her, like Ayman and Fadda. And تطعها ضيولها, she made her way to the masjid. تطعها ضيولها, the narrator says that we saw her, and we saw her walking. Her walking was exactly like the walking of the Prophet. Her clothing was dragging along the ground as she made her way towards the masjid. Now when Zahra enters into the masjid, all of the ashab are there. She orders that a curtain be placed between her and the ashab. A chair is brought. Zahra sits on the chair. The narration says, فَأَنَّتْ النَّارِ. She let out a sigh, a cry. And all of the masjid, hearing that sigh, that sorrowful cry of Zahra, all of them began crying. فَقَالَتْ. Then she begins her khutbah. After the praise of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, she begins to praise the Holy Prophet, then Amirul Mu'mineen. Then she goes on to talking about the philosophy of 13, 14 different types of ibadat. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you salah for this, He's given you sawm for this, zakat for this, hajj for this. She lists all of them, and then she begins to talk about Fadak, and then is interrupted, and then the khutbah continues with her placing evidences about what, because the person sitting in the seat says to her, but I heard from the Holy Prophet that the children of the prophets do not inherit. And she says, Subhanallah, my father would never go against the book of Allah. And she begins to list the ayat of the Holy Quran, is specifically how Sulaiman inherited from Dawood alayhi salam. But the part I want to focus on is where she speaks about the degradation of this community. And the reason for it is so that we can analyze our own lives, our own community, and see why is it that we no longer have that passion or that desire for the majlis. COVID aside, COVID at times, I said in Masumeen as well, that it gave a perfect excuse for those that really weren't attached to the masjid anyway to further distance themselves from the masjid. And this in Akhirul Zaman will happen. The seventh Imam says, إِنَّ هَذَا الْأَمْرِ لَا يَأْتِيكُمْ إِلَّا بَعْدَ إِيَّاسٍ. That this amr, this hujjah of Allah will not come to you until the people despair. لَا وَاللَّهِ حَتَّى تَمَيَّذُوا. No, by Allah, it is so that you may be sieved, so that you may be separated. Those that had the passion for the majlis, for the ibadat, and all of those things pre-COVID, during COVID, they found ways. When it was locked down, they held majlis. If it was only 3 or 4 people from their own family, they held the majlis of Imam Hussein in their own home. They never let that azar go. Then when the masajid opened, then again, there were some that were content at not attending the masjid, but rather just watching online. Because, well, if I can do it with my feet up, then why would I bother going all the way there where I have to sit? Yeah? And so this period of sieving, and this will continue. These trials, these tribulations, they will come. وَلَنَبْلُوَنَّكُمْ بِشَيْءٍ مِّنَ الْخَوْفِ والجوع ونقص من الأموال والأنفس والثمرات وبشر الصابرين. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Surah Al-Baqarah, He says that we will test them through hunger, through fear, through themselves, through loss of wealth, through their children. وبشر الصابرين الذين إذا أصابتهم مصيبة قالوا إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. They are glad tidings be to those that are patient. The patient are those that when faced with a difficulty will say إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. The fifth Imam about this ayah, he says this is about those that live in the ghaiba of the qa'im. That those Shi'as will be tested with all 5 of these things during that ghaiba. At the moment, what are we being tested with? Khawf, fear. إن الموت الذي تفرون منه فإنه ملاقيكم. Surah Al-Jum'ah says, this death that you run from, eventually we will bring it to you. You can run all you want, it is coming your way. Yes, one ties their camel, one prepares, takes all the precautions, but this fear that has been inculcated, the fear of death, in reality it isn't. Nobody's afraid of getting ill. They're not afraid of getting COVID. The underlying point is getting COVID and dying. The fear is of dying, not of the catching the COVID and getting the flu-like symptoms and things. So right now, we are passing the whole world, but specifically where we are not tested with hunger and things, tested with that khawf. How will I deal with that khawf? How will I come out of it? So as a community, collectively, we are going through this test. And I, as an individual, have a responsibility to try and see what it is that how far am I from being a community person? How far am I from being a community builder, or one that runs from all that is community-based? So Hazrat Zahra also in Khutbah Fadakiyah, she speaks about what it is that led to this society getting to the extent that it is stealing from the daughter of the Prophet. Remember, up until now, they have not burnt the house, nor have they come. 3 times they came, twice before, and the 3rd time is when they burnt down the house of Zahra. But twice before, they came as a crowd and they began shouting outside the door of Hazrat Zahra, bring Ali out. The 2nd time said, bring Ali out or we'll burn down the house. The 3rd time they came with fire. This wasn't just once they came, 3 times they came to terrorize Zahra and her children. So, what does she say? What is it that caused this society to end up in this state? It says, فَلَمَّا اخْتَارَهَا اللَّهُ لِنَبِيِّ دَارَ أَنْبِيَائِهِ وَمَأْوَى أَصْفِيَائِهِ ظَهَرَ فِيكُمْ حَسْقَةُ النِّفَاقِ. The first thing, says the Holy Prophet had just left this world towards his eternal abode, towards those chosen ones where Allah takes his chosen ones. ظَهَرَ فِيكُمْ حَسْقَةُ النِّفَاقِ. No, the moment the Holy Prophet left this mortal realm towards his eternal abode, the thorns of hypocrisy manifest in you. Your nifaq became zahir, your hypocritical nature. 300 different ayat in the Holy Quran speak about hypocrisy, spread over 13 surahs. The Holy Prophet of Islam, he says, I don't fear the shar, the evil of the kafir, as much as I fear the evil, the damage of the hypocrite. In the Tafsir al-Nahj al-Balagha, Ibn Abi al-Hadid, he says, he brings a narration, he says, in the final days of the Holy Prophet, the Prophet said, look, take me to the masjid, let me address the people. And he went in front of the ashab and all those in the masjid. And he said, look, ask me, let me pray for you what it is that you need. So one by one, people began standing up. One man stood up and says, Ya Rasulullah, inni rajulun kadhab. Ya Rasulullah, I'm a liar. Please pray for me. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the Holy Prophet says, Allahumma rizukhu sidqa. Oh Allah, grant him with the ability to tell the truth. Another one stands up and says, Ya Rasulullah, ana rajulun na'um. I am a man who sleeps too much. And Allah's Prophet says, Allah take away some of his sleep from him. You know, sleeping too much is one of the diseases of the soul that an individual has. Yeah? I mean, there's loads we could talk about. The people of the dunya, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the hadith of Mi'raj, he says they sleep too much, they talk too much, they eat too much. And Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam, he says, look, for a human being, 6 hours is maximum that they should be sleeping. And then there's a discussion on how those 6 hours are separated. Is it in one go, or do we use the circadian rhythms and place them throughout the day? That's another thing. But he says, I sleep too much. And Rasulullah says, Ya Allah, take away some of his sleep from him. Another man stands up, he says, Ya Rasulullah, ana rajulun munafiq. He says, Ya Rasulullah, I'm a hypocrite. The Holy Prophet says to him, Ijlis, fadhahta nafsak. Says, be quiet, sit down, stop embarrassing yourself. This nifaq is such a bad disease that the human being can become subject to, that the Holy Prophet of Islam is like, don't even mention it. Everyone else is standing up mentioning their bad points, but the moment someone says that I'm a munafiq, the Holy Prophet says, be quiet, sit down, stop making a fool of yourself. The munafiq is hugely, the hypocrite is hugely detrimental to a community. And who are the munafiqun? We'll look at some of the ayat of the Holy Quran that describe who the munafiqun are, and then one can look at themselves and try and compare that, am I one of these people or am I not? So in Surah At-Tawbah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Al-munafiqun wal-munafiqat ba'dhum min ba'd. Says the munafiqeen, the female and the males, says both of them are all of the same kind. You know, they're all the same. When he's talking about the mu'mineen, he says, وَالْمُؤْمِنِينَ وَالْمُؤْمِنَاتِ بَعْضُهُمْ أَوْلِيَاءُ مِنْ بَعْضٍ. Says the believing men and women are friends of each other. But when it comes to the munafiq, says that the munafiq, they are all the same. And in fact, the munafiq will never be friends with another munafiq. It's not like they can ever join and make a union of munafiqeen. They are always at loggerheads with each other as well. What is it that they do? يَأْمَرُونَ بِالْمُنْكَرِ. They command people towards evil. وَيَنْهَوْنَ عَنِ الْمَعْرُوفِ. And they forbid them from doing good. وَيَقْبِضُونَ أَيْدِيَهُمْ. And they withhold their hands, i.e. they don't want to help anyone. So the first thing is that they enjoin that which is evil. Well, the type of people that will try and stop others from doing good. Someone wants to give a donation, someone wants to hold a majlis, attend a majlis. That's the person that's like, wait, no, don't go, let's go do something else. This is the munafiq. That's the first trait. The second is not that not only does he enjoin evil, like he invites you, listen to music, do all this, but he actually actively forbids doing good. Forbids people from doing good. Actively stops people from going towards good. And the Holy Quran, it speaks about these people that hate good. It says that there are 3 levels. That there's one that in themselves they hate good, and so they won't ever do anything good. But then there's another one who is manna'in lil khair, that will stop others from doing good. And the biggest manna'in lil khair is shaitan himself. And in fact, the biggest munafiq is shaitan as well. Because after he's misguided the whole of mankind and made people, the fuel of hell, he turns around in the Holy Quran. It says, مثل الشيطان قال للإنسان اكفر فلما كفر قال إني بريء منك إني أخاف الله رب العالمين. He says that the example of shaitan is that he says to mankind, do kufr, disbelieve. So they disbelieve. Then on Yawm al-Qiyamah he says, إني بريء منك, I seek distance from these people. إني أخاف الله رب العالمين, I fear the Lord of the worlds. I didn't make you do it, I just whispered, I just gave you the idea, nothing to do with me. So shaitan, when he's punished, he's only punished for one sajda that he didn't do. Not all of these thousands and thousands of people that he's misguided. So first three characteristics: they enjoin evil, they forbid good. Third, they withhold their hands. The munafiqeen will not come to the aid of someone else. Not just financially. They won't give advice to anyone. They won't give time to anyone. They will try and withhold their hand because they fear that they are losing something every time they do anything to help another person. The next, in Surah An-Nisa, ayah 142, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, إِنَّ الْمُنَافِقِينَ يُخَادِعُونَ اللَّهَ وَهُمْ خَادِعُهُمْ وَإِذَا قَامُوا إِلَى الصَّلَاةِ قَامُوا كُسَالَى. So he says that surely the hypocrites strive to deceive Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yeah, when they're doing actions, they themselves, not only are they trying to deceive the people with the act that they have, but they're also trying to deceive Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And within our spiritual journeys, everyone to some extent has that issue where, I know if I go to sleep right now, I won't wake up for Fajr. Like for example, I get up and it's 5:30. I know if I go back to sleep now, I'm not getting up in the next 20 minutes or the next hour and a half. But I say to myself, no, I'll get up. It's okay, just rest my eyes. That deception is not only to myself, but also to Allah. Like, oh, Allah, understand. Ya Allah, I'll get up in 10 minutes, 15 minutes. At a very base level, we all have some element of that disease within ourselves. So they actively try to deceive Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then when they stand to pray, remember the munafiq prays, the munafiq fasts, the munafiq does all of these things. Why else in the Holy Quran, when you see during the time of the Holy Prophet, all of these individuals that were there, they were the most honorable of people, al-Zahir. It's why the Ummah split so much, because they were like, on one side is Ali, those that weren't from close to the inner circle, and the other side is these individuals. We saw Ali with them as well, and they were with the Prophet as well. Which way do we go? But the munafiq puts on an outward. In Surah Al-Munafiqun, it says that their outward appearance will please you. The way they dress will be super religious. You'll be like, wow, mashallah, this person is amazing mu'min. Yeah, their appearance will please you. Their words will captivate you. They'll have a way with words. They will weave for you stories, and the way that they recite, the way that they speak, all of these things will captivate you. كَأَنَّهُمْ خُشُبٌ مُسَنَّدًا. But they are nothing but dried pieces of wood that have been covered with clothing. There is nothing in their essence. They're munafiqeen. So it says the munafiqeen, when they stand for salah, قاموا kusala, they stand in a lazy way. They're lazy for their namaz. They come to pray, but they're lazy. They're sort of, okay. They don't run towards salah. They're not eager to pray. I don't know, everyone can analyze their own lives. I'll try and delay my salah as much as I can. I need to do this, I need to do this. And then I go and pray in the last 5 minutes before sunset. Says that's the sifat of the munafiq. Wakes up for fajr. Is not happy about the fact of waking up. And many a times, subconsciously we think that we're doing God a favor. And this itself then leads into the realms of kufr. At least on a spiritual level, when we're thinking that we're doing God a favor, and then, oh, why has this gone wrong? I got up and I prayed, and I've been reciting Salatul Layl, I've been reciting Quran, and still I have all these problems in my life. So it says the munafiqeen, the next characteristic is that when they stand sluggishly towards the salah. يُرَعُونَ النَّاسِ وَلَا يَذْكُرُونَ اللَّهَ إِلَّا قَلِيلًا. They do it only to be seen by other people. And they do not remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala except sometimes. But the majority of their worship, the majority of their ibadat, the majority of their attendance to the masjid and the majlis is only so that they may be seen by others. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, the munafiqeen, they waver between belonging to one group. When they're with one group, they like one thing. They'll talk in a certain way. Then when they go to another group, they'll talk and act in a certain way. When they're in the masjid, butter wouldn't even melt in their mouths. MashaAllah, mu'min, mutadayyin, always reciting, always praying in the first row. But you go home and look how they treat their wife and their children. The munafiq is like this. With different groups of people then in different ways. Yes, there's addressing people in different ways. كَلِّمُ النَّاسِ بِقَدْرِ عُقُولِهِمْ. That talk to the people, when you talk to a group of individuals, talk to them at the level of their intellect. That's a different thing. But being a total different person is from amongst the characteristics of the munafiq that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says. And then there's a narration that says that ثَلَاثٌ مَنْ كُنَّ فِي فَهُوَ مُنَافِقٌ فَإِنْ صَامَ وَصَلَّى. Says three things that are within a person that are the characteristics of the munafiq, even if they're praying and fasting. What are those? The first is lying. The munafiq will lie. Now, lying is one of those things that we think, okay, it's the big lies. The things that, when we think of lying, we think of things that are, I've attributed a lie to Allah, or something bad I've seen, I'm doing tuhmat against someone. But actually in the Islamic tradition, even the joke you tell as a lie is considered a lie, and it is a sin. If I say to someone, oh, it's snowing outside, for example, and they say, oh, is it really? Nah, I'm only joking. That is a sin. That is considered a sin. In fact, we have a narration where there's a lady sitting with the Holy Prophet and her child was running around, and she's saying to her child, come here, I've got something for you, come here, like we do with children. And the Holy Prophet says to her, what's in your hand? She says, Ya Rasulullah, I've got a date. If he comes over, I'll give him the date. The Holy Prophet says, good that you have this. Otherwise, you would have committed two sins. The first is that you would have been lying to the child, and the second is that you would have taught the child that it was okay to lie. So sometimes we don't even consider those things to be a lie. We're like to a child, come here, I've got something for you. And the child comes over, like, what is it? No, I just wanted to hug you. reality, these are the lies. And the narration is saying that this is the sifat of the munafiq. Hazrat Zahra is saying the reason why this society degraded, the reason why they're ready to come and burn down the door of the daughter of Rasulullah is because of this nifaq. A seed, that's all it takes. And the first characteristic of it is lying. The second is that this person will constantly be speaking in a bad way or swearing. Two things. Swearing sab, we know is haram. No, swearing qat'an is haram. Even at the enemies of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, even at the enemies of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. In the battle of Siffin, Hujr ibn Adi and Malik al-Ashtar. Malik, if Malik was a mountain, Malik would be the highest of mountains, that none would be able to scale the peaks of Malik. Amirul Mu'mineen says. Hujr ibn Adi, that Hujr, that if you don't go for his ziyarah, your ziyarah of Sayyidah Zainab is not accepted. Both of them are there in the battle of Siffin. They're fighting their way, and someone from the army of Muawiyah swears at Amirul Mu'mineen. They hear them swearing at Ali, so they swear back at Muawiyah. When they return, Amirul Mu'mineen says to them, "It has come to my knowledge that you swore at my enemy Muawiyah." Says, "Yes, Ya Ali, they were swearing at you." He says, "I, Ali, do not like it when you swear." He says, "Don't be from amongst the people who swear. If you swear again, then leave my side." There's another narration that says that the fourth Imam had a companion that was like his shadow, was with him all the time, would walk with the Imam everywhere he went. One day he's walking with the Imam and he's beginning to call his slave. This man is calling his slave, "Slave, slave," doesn't listen. So he turns around and he says to him, "Yabna Fa'ila," "Oh, the son of a woman of ill repute." The Imam stops, says, "What did you say?" Says, "Oh, I was speaking to my slave, Yabna Rasulullah." Imam says, "Were his parents married according to their religion?" Says, "Yes." Says, "So why did you address him in such a way?" Says, "Until I am alive, never speak to me again." And the Imam left this dunya angry at him, and the Imam died. That man died while the Imam was still angry at him. Swearing. But then also bad words. Some people just have a bad tongue. They don't know how to speak nicely to other people. The seventh Imam says there are certain individuals who you would much rather that they stabbed you or they hit you with something, rather than the way that they speak is so hurtful. The Holy Prophet says, "Sharrun nas," the worst of mankind is that individual that the people fear because of his tongue. They say, "Don't speak to this person because if you start him off, he's going to do that. Just leave him, forget it." It says that is sharrun nas, the worst of mankind. Then the third thing that is the sign of the munafiq, according to this narration, is the one that betrays trust. The one that does khayana in the amana. The one that betrays the trust. Someone has entrusted me with something, some money. And I say, "Oh, you know what? I need some, I'll repay it. Let me just take $100 from it. I'll put it back." But I have betrayed that trust. Without permission, I've betrayed that trust. Someone tells me a secret and says, "Please don't tell anyone." And generally that is a surefire way of making sure that everyone finds out about something, is that if you don't want anyone to know, tell someone and say, "Look, please don't tell anyone." And then before you know it, you go to the next person and listen, "Look, but don't tell anyone, but this is what I heard." And then next, between me and you. Before you know it, everybody knows. It says this is khiyana in the amana. Someone has given you a secret, has told you something. Don't betray that trust. They have asked you to hold on to something. Don't betray the trust. That is the sign of the munafiq. The one that lives double lives. I come to the masjid, all holy. I come and I cry for Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. But on my way home, I go and I listen to music. I come and I cry for the hijab of Zainab, but on the way home, I just take my hijab and throw it aside. This is that nifaq that led to the door of Zahra being burnt. This is that nifaq. I claim to be a huge mu'min, but when my child gets married, there's music and dancing. Even though the imams have cursed those people, but doesn't apply to me. This nifaq is what's caused the burning of the door of Zahra. This nifaq is what's led to Karbala. And I'm here with one voice, Allahumma ajjil waliyyaka al-faraj. If he comes, then how will I deal with it? When my nifaq becomes zahir in front of him. The biggest trust that has been given to mankind is the wilaya of Amir al-Mu'mineen, the wilaya of Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam. As-salamu alayka ya Amin Allahi fi ardih. Salam be upon the trust of Allah upon the earth. How have I used that trust that was given to me? The amanat that I have from Ali, the amanat of the love of Ahlul Bayt. What have I done with it? How have I utilized it? What is it that I have used it for? Or is it that I just inherited it? And so because I inherited it, now it's okay. I will disrespect it in whatever way, the hurma of the Ahlul Bayt. Because with one mouth I'm saying, with one tongue I'm saying I love them. But with the other tongue, or with my actions, I'm doing the things that they hate themselves. And with one tongue I'm saying I love Ali, but then at the same time, with these ears I'm listening to music. When he himself says, من طرب قلبه على حرف من آلات الغناء فكأنما لطم عليا على وجهه. Says the one whose heart becomes happy at the single note of a musical instrument or at the singing voice. فكأنما لطم عليا على وجهه. It is as if he has slapped me, Ali, in the face. But I still say I am a lover of Ali. Nifaq is that disease that is deeply rooted in the soul of an individual. And if one doesn't ponder and dive into the darkest depths of their soul, it remains hidden. And at times we use it as saying, oh no, this is how we have to live in this dunya. This is how we have to do business in this world. This is how we have to deal with the wider community. Otherwise, they won't accept us. The wilaya of Amir al-Mu'mineen is a trust that is not given to everyone. How do I use that trust? And then there was another trust that was given to this ummah. And that was the trust of Zahra. When Ali alayhi salam comes to bury Zahra in the grave, he says, Ya Rasulullah, I'm returning that amana that you gave to me. But Ya Rasulullah, this amana is not in the state that you gave it to me. You yourself ask her, what is it that this ummah did to her? And what is it that they did? They came to the door of Zahra. They said, Ali, come out, come and give a bay'ah. Amirul Mu'mineen was inside the house. They say Zahra stood. She went to Amirul Mu'mineen asking for permission. She went towards the door. She stood at the door. She said, what is it that you want? Leave us be. They're saying, Zahra, why are you coming out? Ali is sending out his women while he hides behind the curtains. Send Ali out. She says, you know that Ali is fulfilling the wasiyah of Rasulullah. Leave from this place. They say, Zahra, if Ali does not come out, we will burn down the house. When he said that we will burn down the house, those that were near him said, that will you burn the house while Zahra is inside? He says, who cares if Zahra is inside? I will burn down this house. They say as they began to push the door, Zahra alayha salam had her hands against the door, trying to hold it closed. The gaps between the door, he says, I saw the hand of Zahra. He takes the whip of comfort. He whips the hand of Zahra. Zahra alayha salam pulls her hand back, crying, Ya Rasulullah, come and see what this ummah does to me after you. They set fire to the door of Zahra. Zahra pulls away from the door. He says, when I realized Fatima was behind the door, with all of my power, I kicked open the door. I realized that I had crushed her between the wall and the door. In the letter that he writes to Muawiyah, he says that when I realized she was still behind the door, he says, I pushed with all my strength against the door until I knew that I had crushed her. It was at that moment that the rib of Zahra was broken. Zahra fell to the ground unconscious. Ya Fidda khudini, fa wallah asqatu janini. Oh Fidda, come and take me, for by Allah they have killed my child. ألا لعنة الله على القوم الظالمين وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. We pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Ya Allah, for the sake of these tears, forgive our sins. Ya Allah, for the sake of these tears, forgive the sins of our parents. Ya Allah, those of our parents that are alive, give them long lives. Those of our parents that have left this world, give them place extolling Muhammad in Jannah. Ya Allah, those who are ill, give them shifa'ah. Those who are in debt, clear their debts. Those who are in education, make them successful. Ya Allah, keep safety azadar of Sayyid al-Shuhada around the world. Ya Allah, give us tawfiq to go on the ziyarat of Aba Abdullah and all the A'immah this year and every year. Ya Allah, give us tawfiq to live long enough to see the rebuilding of Baqi' and for us to go on the ziyarat of Zahra alayha salam. Ya Allah, hasten the reappearance of the Imam of our time and allow us to be amongst his true muntadhireen, his true waiters, Matam Hussein.
नाना तेरी उम्मत ने बाजार दिखाया है, नाना तेरी उम्मत ने बाजार दिखाया है, नाना तेरी उम्मत ने बाजार दिखाया है, کیوں ثانی زہرا کا سر ننگ پھرایا ہے، نانا تیری امت نے بازار دکھایا ہے، نانا تیری امت نے بازار دکھایا ہے، زینب نے پڑھے خطبے حیدر کی طرح بولی، کل نبیوں کی محنت کا زینب نے بچایا ہے، نانا تیری امت نے بازار دکھایا ہے، نانا تیری امت نے بازار دکھایا ہے، ہائے شام کی گلیاں ہیں اور لوگ تماشائی، کیسا یہ کٹھن لمحہ سادات پہ آیا ہے، نانا تیری امت نے بازار دکھایا ہے، نانا تیری امت نے بازار دکھایا ہے، ہائے نیند نہیں آتی معصوم سکینہ کو، زندان کی گرمی ہے اور دیس پر آیا ہے، نانا تیری امت نے بازار دکھایا ہے، نانا تیری امت نے بازار دکھایا ہے، سجاد نے جب دیکھا سر نیز پہ اصغر کا، سجاد نے جب دیکھا سر نیز پہ اصغر کا، بیمار کی آنکھوں نے خونار بہایا ہے، نانا تیری امت نے بازار دکھایا ہے، نانا تیری امت نے بازار دکھایا ہے، نانا تیری امت نے بازار دکھایا ہے، زہرا کے گلستان کی پاکیزہ کلی زینب، زہرا کے گلستان کی پاکیزہ کلی زینب، کیوں وقت حسین سے بازار میں لایا ہے، نانا تیری امت نے بازار دکھایا ہے، نانا تیری امت نے بازار دکھایا ہے، کیوں ثانی زہرا کو سر ننگے پھرایا ہے، نانا تیری امت نے بازار دکھایا ہے، یا حسین تیری امت نے بازار دکھایا، یا حسین یا حسین، صلوات و سلام آپ پر فاطمہ زہرا، صلوات و سلام آپ پر فاطمہ زہرا، ہم آئے ہیں پرسے کے لیے فاطمہ زہرا، صلوات و سلام آپ پر فاطمہ زہرا، ہم آئے ہیں پرسے کے لیے فاطمہ زہرا، کانوں سے سکینہ کے اتارے گئے گوہر، کانوں سے سکینہ کے اتارے گئے گوہر، زینب کی بچینی ہے ردا فاطمہ زہرا، صلوات و سلام آپ پر فاطمہ زہرا، ہم آئے ہیں پرسے کے لیے فاطمہ زہرا، بر محمد و آل محمد صلی اللہ علیہ وسلم۔
متوجہ ہے ذہن۔ بسم اللہ الرحمن الرحیم، السلام علیکہ یا ابا عبداللہ وعلی الارواح التي حلت بفنائک، عليك مني سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار ولا جعله الله آخر العهد مني لزيارتكم. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين. السلام عليك يا غريب الغرباء. السلام عليك يا معين الضعفاء والفقراء. السلام عليك يا مغيث الشيعة والزوار في يوم الجزاء. السلام عليك يا عنيس النفوس. السلام عليك أيها المدفون بأرض توس. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك يا صاحب العصر والزمان. الأمان 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 من فتنة الزمان والشيطان. السلام عليك يا شريك القرآن. السلام عليك يا خليفة الرحمن. السلام عليك يا إمام الإنس والجان. أجل الله تعالى فرجك وسهل الله تعالى مخرجك وظهورك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم كل وليك لحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم صل على